How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Ganji. Welcome to another episode of Tear Talk. Guys, Perkins operation, media leaks, and Emmanuel Haro case. So I did a video on this not too long ago. I actually posted the videos probably about a month ago. I did it with a friend of mine, Gary York, that was very familiar with Perkins operations. I'm also very familiar with it because I do work in a prison setting. With that said, when we did the video, we gave it a breakdown of what that means. But we also said that information like this really shouldn't be leaked out during an ongoing investigation. These are tactics that are utilized to go ahead and get information we need so we can get closure. Closure for, in this case, Emmanuel Haro, who at this point, body has still not been found. And this is a picture of Emmanuel Haro on the left, and then there's Jake Haro, Rebecca Harrow on the right. So today, and guys, I see this a lot as I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to get, I'm really connecting to wanting to try to tell the story of the victims, but also try to create broader impact. And then you're competing against people racing to get headlines and just putting something out there that really shouldn't be put out there, going to these sources that really shouldn't be leaking anything, and then forcing law enforcement then to just do an audible, and it's an audible that they're not prepared for because they're probably already on their fifth or sixth audible already. And then I see a message to, and guys, it's no shot on anybody, just bear with me because again, at the end of the day, if there is no breaking news or no one's coming out trying to release something that you feel should be released already, but yet you don't know, because we also see it with the Celeste Rivas Hernandez case, see it with a few cases. There's a rush to get answers, but it's not that simple of a process. I did a whole video yesterday on why charges may not have been pushed forward yet for the David or the Celeste Rivas Hernandez case. But you get a reporter who gets kudos. So again, no shot at anybody, just hear me out. So everyone who trashed Brian Etten should apologize, because Brian Etten was the one who released the information about the Perkins operation. And yes, people had quickly jumped on that and said that wasn't true. There was no Perkins operation, and he was pushing that it was. And I think he should have got the hint from law enforcement that, hey, that shouldn't have been released. That's why now you're making law enforcement have to lie to the public because they're trying to work on something. And then when the news breaks that there was a Perkins operation, oh, kudos for Brian. He told the truth. And no shot at you, Brian. Just bear with me. Kudos for Brian. He told the truth. And then how does that make law enforcement feel? That they're the bad guys because they had to lie to protect the integrity of that investigation to find Emmanuel. So this comes from a post from Garrett Hoddle. Looks like he's KESQ News Channel 3. I reached out to the Riverside County DA's office this morning and confirmed a sealed Perkins operation was part of the baby Emmanuel's investigation, a covert jailhouse recording that remains under court order. The DA says because Rebecca Harrow's case is still active, prosecutors can't comment further or release new evidence because it wasn't ready to be released. That means new information, including what Jake Haro may have told investigators during the sealed Perkins operation or now, or how baby Emmanuel died, is unlikely to become public until after Harrow's November 3rd sentencing, or if evidence is later unsealed in Rebecca Harrow's case. Because how do we know that they were going to try to do the same thing for Rebecca Haro? See what information she had. But because you rushed to put something out there, then the lawyers were probably quick to tell Rebecca, hey, be careful. Be careful who you're talking to. Be careful what you got going on, because this could have been done maybe simultaneously. But there was a rush to release it. And then they had to force a conference to say that didn't exist. But it could have messed with the game plan. And then what I see now, again, it's no shots, just feelings. So please don't take it personal. But then what happens here is you get someone credit for, hey, he broke it. He wasn't lying. It wasn't his to break. I'm seeing it again in the Celeste Rivas case, with that investigator. Guys, I know we want information. I get it. It's important. But we have to understand that there's processes here in place, and then whatever we do in the front end could affect the back end of holding people accountable or getting closure, if anything. I mean, for me, what I do is I take information. If it's slow, then I expand on other areas that could be addressed. Take advantage of these cases and see if there could be a greater impact. I've been doing that for a lot. I did it with the Emmanuel Haro case because I focused on Jake Haro and, what type of programming did he go through? How did he pass those programs? What are the deficits there? For A. Marie's case, which is an interesting case, changes with the juvenile justice system. The Christina Formello case, the female pedophile, technically, how we look at female sex offenders. So that's Rivas Hernandez case. I'm doing a lot of focus on runaways. These crimes always have greater impacts. For the Emmanuel Haro case, we were focusing on maybe a registry for experienced child abusers, because there isn't one for them. But I just want to read something to you guys just to kind of give you an update, but also, if you guys get a chance, there is a video I did to give clarity to the Perkins, but also kind of in the background tells people why, information like that really shouldn't get dropped out immediately, trying to create a buffer, even saying that this probably didn't happen. It wouldn't make sense, just doing what you can, because in the end, you're trying to protect the integrity of that case. And someone gets accolades for telling the truth, but where's the respect for the law enforcement trying to protect it when the media tries to hold the narrative? So bravo to law enforcement. They're going right out there and trying to do what they can to make sure they don't lose control of that narrative or their angles that they're trying to get, because they're trying to find the body. I don't think we should give accolades for someone who, and no offense to anybody, who gets information leaked to them and just reveals it with no care in the world of how that could affect an investigation. How, again, that same process, the same operations could have been used for Rebecca. Not no more. Once the lawyers knew about that, that's done. And then, law enforcement's at fault because they can't find his body. No, we were almost there. But now we have to adjust, because what we were doing on one side now can't be done, because unfortunately, what we've been doing has been exposed. And the person who exposed that leaks to the media for whatever gain, whether he got paid or she got paid, whatever it was, should be held accountable. And the news should also know, got to be careful what you put out there. And for people that are, taking what they get from official news sources, be careful what you're putting out there, because sometimes you may follow the person, but the person could be releasing stuff that really should not be released, because they could always retract. They got lawyers upon lawyers, but you're posting out information that really is not ready to be posted. So for here in August 2025, Southern California was shaken by the disappearance of a 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro. His parents, Jake and Rebecca, reported a dramatic kidnapping. A stranger allegedly struck Rebecca and took the baby from a parking lot. Investigators almost immediately spotted inconsistencies, and within days, the abduction narrative collapsed and both parents faced murder charges. By October 16th, Jake Haro, on left, pled guilty to second-degree murder, but what happened between the arrest and that plea reveals more than just investigative work. It exposes the collision between law enforcement strategy and a media industry eager for the next headline. And guys, it's not an attack. I don't want to just have a venue that attacks. That's not the purpose. But if it affects closure or affects justice for the victim, then you gotta do something, or at least put it out there and just tell people, hey, just be a bit more cautious. I'm not perfect either. I'm learning as we go. But worst comes to worst, if there's not another headline, but we're still in this time frame of maybe they're still doing stuff, well then find other areas to cover that can create an impact, something that can show honor. I mean, it's crazy. I was watching a news report the other day when they were talking to that guy SF, and the news reporter said, like, it's they're not doing nothing. And thank God for SF to be doing all this. No. They are doing stuff. They're just not releasing it. That doesn't mean they're not doing nothing. And a good response from the investigator would have been, no, they are doing stuff. Hold on. They are doing a lot. It's just they're not privy to release it, and neither are you. I like how at one point he says, I'd rather have LAPD release that information. Who are you? You're not in charge. You mean I'd rather have? You're not in charge. It's not up to you what you want. Shouldn't be releasing this anyway. But it's funny how some people will take the gap when there's no information being put out there for whatever reason, and all of a sudden start jumping in and conspiracy theories, filling in the blanks, whatever it is, just so you can become the main person and get all the clout. So again, sometimes it's quiet because it's quiet for a reason. Give law enforcement a chance. So again, by October 16, Jake Haro pled guilty to second-degree murder, but what happened between the arrest and the plea reveals more than just investigative work. We talked about that, exposes a collision between law enforcement strategy and a media industry eager for the next headline. So we're going to talk about the Perkins again, but guys, I did do a video on Perkins in general with my friend Gary York. I posted it on my post. A tool built on secrecy. Okay, hold on. So at the heart of the story is the Perkins operation, right? A tactic approved by the U.S. Supreme Court in Illinois versus Perkins. That was like in 1990. In these stings, police insert a covert informant posing as an inmate to engage suspects in casual conversation. Because suspects don't know they're talking to law enforcement, courts consider the resulting confession voluntary and admissible. See, what's scary about this too, guys, by the way, is that, some of these news outlets, they have strong connections to defense attorneys. And I see it in who they interview. So sometimes the stuff that they release or the angles that they put out there, I don't know if it's done on purpose. Like, I don't know if when they release something, or they release something to really mess with the investigation, but under the guise of journalism. And again, just a question, but it's still something worth thinking about. Like, if you got something that secret and you jump to put it out there, who does that really help? And then who do you have on the show right next to you? It's defense attorneys. So I'm not attacking. I just got to put it out there because in the end, we're trying to get closure, and the conflicts are not really coming from law enforcement. The conflicts are coming from people just jumping in and putting their 2 cents in. Again, as I'm learning through this process, I could see where that could be a conflict. And the moment that when there was a news conference and when law enforcement had said that the biggest concern they have is navigating through all the rumor mill that's put out there through social media and some of the things that social media people think they can do because they feel entitled, I woke up immediately and understood it because, again, being in this profession, I understand exactly how they felt and what that can do to a case. So again, when someone volunteers that information and it jeopardizes the case, I mean, did you do it for the headline or did you do it to help out defense because you're buddy with that lawyer over there? In Jake Haro's case, reports emerged that such an informant recorded him admitting he killed Emmanuel and placed the body in a trash can. This account differed from what Harrow first told detectives, that he had accidentally smothered the baby while sleeping. If true, the jailhouse confession was a breakthrough moment. But here's the catch. These details weren't revealed in court. They leaked to the media. So when the story breaks too soon, so on August 27th, Newsweek and News Nation ran the story of Harrow's jailhouse submission. Headlines lit it up. Audiences praised journalists like Brian, and no attack, Brian, just bear with me, for uncovering hidden details, and social media called it proof that reporters were ahead of the curve. The very next day, Riverside County District Attorney Michael Hestrin dismissed those reports as misinformation. Now, whether he was trying to protect an active operation or correct inaccurate leaks, the message was clear. This information wasn't supposed to be out there. And here's the hard question. Even if the journalist sources were correct, your thoughts, should this information have been published at that time? Just love to get your thoughts on that. And then you have the applause versus accountability, because I see people like, hey, he was right. Great job. I told you he wasn't lying. So we call them police liars. It should be, Brian should have went out with that. You caused the police to have to change their plans, and now we can't do the same thing with Rebecca. Maybe that was a goal. And again, these lawyers, they're watching. So there's a sense of entitlement that comes with breaking news. Reporters are celebrated for being first, but in cases like this, the accolade might be misplaced. Applauding a scoop ignores the fact that releasing sensitive details of a Perkins operation, right or wrong, could have jeopardized the investigation, contaminated evidence, or even eliminated the chance of finding Emmanuel's body. It doesn't matter if the reporting was ultimately correct. What matters is that publishing it too soon may have undermined the very effort to bring closure to a murdered child. And that's the uncomfortable tension. In the chase for headlines, transparency risks tipping into recklessness. That's what it's saying again, right? Transparency, risk, tipping into recklessness. And these are risks beyond the headlines, right? So leaks like this don't just make prosecutors angry, they carry serious consequences. You got the contaminating of evidence. So witnesses and jurors exposed to leaked confessions may unconsciously adopt them into memory, poisoning testimony and jury pools, endangering informants. If the identity of a jailhouse snitch leaks, that inmate becomes a target. In prison, being labeled a rat can be a death sentence. And I don't think it would be that hard to figure out who he spoke to, because he was limited to who he could speak to. And what about if that was an undercover cop working an angle? That could have put the undercover cop in jeopardy, because there wouldn't be that many who'd be speaking to Jacob Harrow. And by the way, when you do an investigation like this, not even the officers are in the know. It's usually just a few selected people. You know, definitely the investigator. Sometimes the warden may not be in the know. So you expose it, and then it causes everybody to kind of look to see what's going around them, and then it causes a giant risk. Because in that circle, there's just too many people that know. Got to pull him out, or else he's going to get hurt. So you release that, and I'll guarantee you that became the talk of that facility. It was probably easy to find out who it was. So again, you endanger the informants. That's where, I don't know, where I would have a concern. But that's, to me, the biggest concern. Forcing law enforcement hands instead of running their own timeline. Prosecutors are pushed into reactive press conferences, denying or explaining information that was never supposed to surface, and jeopardizing recovery efforts. If Emmanuel's remains have been located, that evidence might have supported stronger charges, but leaks could have compromised search strategies or defense negotiations. I mean, how do we know we weren't going to, again, try to bring that towards Rebecca, that idea? But I'll guarantee you, can't be done now. So the bigger picture, Jake Haro's guilty plea resolves his personal case, but the larger issue remains. Every time the press pushes information out before investigators are ready, the justice system is tested. Was Jake's plea partly influenced by pretrial publicity? Did the leaks change the bargaining power of the prosecution or the defense? And these are questions we may never fully answer, but what's certain is that Emmanuel Haro is still missing, and the leaks that earned praise for speed and boldness may have cost investigators a chance to recover the truth about where he is. So I got a couple of questions I wanted to send your way, guys. Just your thoughts. So do journalists deserve credit for breaking a story, even if releasing that information risks undermining an investigation? Should there be agreed upon limits between law enforcement and the press on what can be reported in active cases involving children? And sometimes what you get from these reporters now is they're not releasing the information from the on the network side. They're releasing it on their personal channels, but yet they still have maybe the network influence because people will recognize them from the network. But maybe the network will say, hey, we don't want to report that. But you got your own private channel, so you may want to go that route. So they kind of, I don't know if that's ethics, but, you know, you're a reporter, and I know it's not for your personal channel. But I know it's for your personal channel, but I'm sure people are recognizing you from those networks. If you were Emmanuel's family Would you rather have immediate updates, even if they risk jeopardizing the case, or delayed, controlled releases that protect the investigation? And that's the key, right? Somebody wants to rush for information, but you got to slow it down. You got to slow it down because it's not ready. It's still a lot happening. It's still ongoing. And people don't just, when they get caught, all of a sudden give you all the information you need. That's when the game begins. That's when you got to hold them there. So that's where it's now you're going for that conviction. Does public applause for reporters create an incentive system that prioritizes speed over responsibility? And could Jake Haro's guilty plea itself have been shaped by the leaked informant story, making this not just a journalism issue, but a legal outcome issue? Because maybe he knows what could be used against him now. And therefore, before that gets out, before people know what I told this informant, I'm going to get ahead of it. Just a question. As always, guys, stay safe.